School life in the 1970s had its own rhythm. Desks were covered in gum, teachers scribbled notes in oversized grade books, and the smell of fresh mimeograph paper was the highlight of the day. Kids raced to recess in polyester pants, and lunch trays carried mystery meat alongside chocolate milk in little cartons. Join us as we count down 25 classroom memories every 70s student will remember. And the last one, let's just say it turned the whole school upside down. Starting with the one thing that ruled every classroom wall. Number 1, chalk dust and blackboards. The blackboard was the heartbeat of every 1970s classroom. Teachers snapped sticks of chalk against it, leaving trails of white powder that clung to desks, sweaters, and even hair. Every kid knew the smell, the sharp, dusty scent that floated in the air all day long. If you got called up to solve a math problem, your palms instantly sweated, not just from the pressure of answering right, but from holding chalk that left your hands ghost white. Erasers weren't any cleaner. They were packed with chalk dust and smelled like old sweat and powder mixed together. But there was one small pleasure that made it worth it: getting to clap erasers outside, watching clouds of dust explode like smoke bombs. Of course, there was nothing worse than when a teacher's fingernails accidentally or intentionally screeched across the board, a sound so sharp it gave the whole class goosebumps. But if the blackboard ruled the wall, another glowing piece of classroom was even more impressive. Number 2, overhead projectors. Before smartboards and PowerPoint, there was an almighty overhead projector. Teachers wheeled in that glowing machine on its rattling cart, slapped a transparency on the glass, and suddenly words and diagrams filled the pull-down screen larger than life. The hum of the fan and the dimmed lights made the classroom feel more like a theater than a lecture hall. Kids whispered and giggled whenever the transparency on the projector tilted, making everything lean sideways like an illusion mirror. Teachers always seemed to smudge their hands with marker ink, leaving green and red stains that wouldn't wash off until the next day. And when a student got the rare chance to write on a transparency with those special pens, it felt like stepping into the spotlight, performing in front of the whole class. But nothing compared to what came rolling in on movie day. Number 3, film strip days. Not many announcements could light up a 70s classroom like hearing, "Today, we're watching a film." Suddenly, the teacher rolled in the AV cart, stacked high with rolls and humming with possibility. The clicking, whirring, and occasional flicker of the film became part of the soundtrack of school life. Every now and then, the roll would melt from the bulb's heat, turning faces into wobbly, bubbly shapes that sent the class into fits of laughter. Teachers fumbled with splicing tape, trying to patch the strips while we whispered in the dark, grateful for a break from worksheets. Sometimes the narrator's voice was dull, but even that couldn't ruin the excitement of escaping normal lessons. For 30 precious minutes, you weren't a student, you were an audience. Film days in school were good, but the next memory was even better. Number 4, being class monitor. Becoming a class monitor was like winning a lottery. You weren't just another kid at a desk. You felt like a sheriff at work. You carried important notes to the office, stood guard at the door, and, best of all, got to write names of misbehaving classmates on the blackboard for all to see. Friends begged you to let them off, while enemies frowned as you wrote their names in big block letters. Even erasing the chalkboard at the end of the day felt like a noble duty. Some kids took the role seriously, others let the power go straight to their heads, but everyone knew being chosen was an honor. For just one day, you had authority that felt bigger than your grade. Next on our list, we have a memory I think most people have completely forgotten about. Number 5, milk cartons at lunch. Ah, the milk cartons. It was small, waxy, and impossible to open without a fight. Some kids mastered the smooth pinch and pull technique, snapping them open in one try. Others squashed them so badly that milk splattered across the table, staining their shirts. Chocolate milk was the crown jewel, the one carton everyone fought to trade for. 2 regulars might earn you 1 chocolate if you bargained just right, but the real fun began when the milk was gone. You flattened cartons and stomped on them for that satisfying pop, or turned the empty boxes into whistles, filling the cafeteria with chaos that drove teachers nuts. Milk was the equalizer. Everyone had it, and everyone struggled with it. But the next memory is still legendary for all the wrong reasons. Number 6, mystery meat in the cafeteria. If there's one lunch memory that haunted the 70s, it was mystery meat. No one really knew what it was made from. Kids swore it was leftovers pressed together into a new form. It came as patties, slabs or chunks drowning in thick gravy, and its smell drifted down the hall long before lunch began. Some kids covered it in ketchup just to hide the flavor, while others slid it into the trash. Some freaks of nature actually liked it. They said it tasted better than it looked. But mystery meat wasn't just food, it was a story. Every school had its own version of it, but the reaction was always the same. No one right in the head liked it. The lunch was somewhat eatable, but it's nothing to what we had after it. But before we talk about that, what's your favorite school memory? Drop it in the comments. We might feature your story in a future video. Number 7. Jell-O with fruit inside. Jell-O wasn't just dessert, it was a little game at lunch. Kids would wiggle the tray just to watch it bounce, or sneak bites with their spoons while the teacher wasn't looking. Sometimes you traded your square for fruit or chips, but if you kept it, you poked at it until it collapsed into sweet, sticky pieces. The fruit inside was hit or miss. Peaches were a win, cherries were fun, and sometimes you got something no one could identify. Even if you didn't love the taste, you played with it, hid it, or slurped it down before class. It wasn't gourmet, but in the middle of a long school day, Jell-O felt like a treasure. All right, it's about to get scary. This is one memory you couldn't forget, even if you tried. Number 8. The paddle on the wall. Discipline in the 70s wasn't subtle. It hung right there on the wall in the form of a paddle. Some were plain wood, others had holes drilled in for them to sting more, and just seeing it was enough to make kids sit up straighter. Teachers didn't always use it, but the threat alone kept plenty of kids in line. Tales of classmates getting sent to the office spread like wildfire, and the screams that sometimes came out of the office were a good enough lesson for any student. Leave that. Just the sound of a paddle swatting the desk as a warning could silence an entire room. For many students, the paddle became a symbol of authority, a reminder that stepping too far out of line came with painful consequences. Now here comes one of the memories we all wish we could forget. Number 9. Pop quizzes. Take out a piece of paper, we're having a quiz. Those words hit like a thunderclap. No preparation, no warning. It just sent every student into instant panic. Kids scrambled to recall last night's reading, or tried looking at notes before the questions started flying. The room filled with pencils scratching fast, kids sighing when they couldn't think, and the quiet pride of the few who had studied. And once papers were collected, the groans were loud enough to echo through the halls. The pop quiz was half luck, half memory, and entirely stressful. Pop quizzes tested your brain most frustratingly, leaving you more stressed than satisfied. Sure, pop quizzes stung, but the next one was even worse. Number 10. Dodgeball in gym class. If you grew up in the 70s, you knew the sting of a red rubber dodgeball. Gym class often turned into a battle where the strong kids threw balls super hard and everyone else just tried not to get hit. The sound of one smacking against a leg, or worse, a face, echoed across the gym, followed by laughter and groans. You ducked, dove, and squealed in the front line, while the lucky ones hid in the back, praying they wouldn't get targeted. Being the last one standing felt like winning a war, a badge of honor that gave you bragging rights until the next round. And even though the game could be brutal, most kids loved the rush of adrenaline it brought. But there was another memory that got your heart racing for completely different reasons. Number 11. The gold star on your paper. Few things in school felt better than a shiny gold star sticker at the top of your assignment. It didn't matter if it was a spelling test or an art project. That star meant you were a champion. You got silver stars for being the second best, and that was okay. But gold was the holy grail. Kids compared them like medals, and some even saved their papers just to admire the sparkle. Gold stars made you proud, but the next one made you feel nervous. Number 12. Mad Minute math drills. Teachers loved timing kids on Mad Minutes. One sheet, dozens of problems, and just 60 seconds on the clock. Pencils flew across paper, erasers shredded into crumbs, and the ticking clock seemed to get louder with each second. When time was called, you compared numbers like athletes checking their stats. It was stressful, competitive, and completely unforgettable. But the next thing on our list finally let kids cut loose. Number 13. Construction paper projects. The smell of glue and crayons filled the air during art projects. Construction paper in every color was cut, folded, and glued into turkeys, hearts, and paper chains. Scissors left jagged edges, glue left sticky fingers, and crayons wore down to little stubs. You proudly displayed your creations on classroom walls, and it gave the room bursts of color. Okay, this next one's gonna bring back some serious nostalgia. Number 14. Weekly readers. The arrival of weekly readers brightened the whole classroom's mood. These little magazines made current events feel exciting for kids. Bright pictures, short articles, and fun puzzles made you feel like you were holding a real newspaper. Some kids flipped straight to the games while others devoured the stories about space, animals, or even movie stars. Teachers loved them because they made reading fun, and students loved them because it felt like news was written just for them. Weekly readers made you feel like a grown-up. However, the next one could stop your heart in an instant. By the way, if these classroom memories are taking you back, hit the like button. It helps us keep sharing more school day stories from the past. And subscribe. We post new throwbacks every other day. Number 15. Report cards in the mail. Unlike today's instant online grades, 70s kids had to wait for the envelope. Report cards came sealed, often mailed home, turning the walk from the mailbox into a march of destiny. Some kids peaked early, hoping to soften the blow. Others handed it straight to their parents and braced themselves. Straight A's meant ice cream. F's meant you were getting whooped, and parents compared grades like trophies or warnings. Now let's talk about a classroom memory you've probably forgotten. Number 16, bulletin boards. Do you remember how every classroom had a giant bulletin board? Framed with bright borders and filled with push-pin projects? Seeing your poem, drawing, or essay displayed for everyone to admire was a thrill. Sometimes teachers changed the theme monthly: pumpkins in October, snowflakes in January, and flowers in May. You rushed to spot your work, proud to be part of the Wall of Fame. But while bulletin boards showed off accomplishments, the next memory was even more unforgettable. Number 17, class photos. You posed for the annual class photo, lined up by height, dressed in your best, or whatever your mom picked for you. The photographer barked orders, the lights flashed, and the background was always some odd shade of blue or gray. Teachers stood at the side, looking stern, while kids tried to keep a straight face. Later, everyone swapped wallet-sized prints like trading cards. Seeing those silly hairstyles and polyester outfits years later, it feels priceless. Those photos froze a moment in time. They're a memory you can't ever forget. The next thing on our list might be your favorite. You know why? Because it let kids express themselves in real time. Number 18, desk graffiti. Desks in the 70s were covered in carvings, doodles, and initials scratched deep into the wood. Kids etched, "So-and-so was here," or carved little hearts with arrows through them. Gum was stuck underneath, and sometimes teachers caught kids in the act, wielding pocket knives or ballpoint pens. It was secret communication, a hidden layer of classroom life that only the students truly understood. Do you remember the room that held more secrets than any other in the school? Number 19, the cloakrooms. We called them cloakrooms back in the day, and every student knew the drill. Coats went on the hooks, lunch pails and brown paper bags on the shelves, and before long, the air was filled with a mashup of smells: wet raincoats, soggy umbrellas, and tuna or egg salad sandwiches. The cloakroom had a life of its own, almost like a secret world tucked behind the classroom. Sometimes it was quiet and orderly, other times it was chaos, with kids sneaking in to trade snacks or whisper secrets before the teacher caught on. And if you really misbehaved, chances were you'd be sent there for a timeout, standing among the coats while the class carried on without you. For such a small space, it held a whole lot of memories. And the next memory is something every kid waited to hear all day long. Number 20, the school bell. The loud clang of the school bell was more than a sound. It was freedom, fear, or routine, depending on the moment. At the start of the day, it meant hurrying into class. Between periods, it meant sprinting down hallways. And at the end of the day, it meant pure freedom. You never wanted to hear any bell other than the last one. The ringing echoed in your ears long after dismissal, but it was all music to your ears when you knew you were free. But not all memories were good ones, and the next one proves it. Number 21, cursive handwriting lessons. Cursive wasn't optional, it was survival. Rows of swooping letters filled those practice sheets, and teachers expected every loop and curve to be just right. Some kids picked it up quickly and made their writing look fancy, while others ended up with messy, squiggly lines. The smell of freshly sharpened pencils mixed with eraser dust as everyone tried to make a perfect Q or Z. If your handwriting looked neat, you got praise. If it didn't, you had to do it all over again. Cursive really tested your patience, didn't it? But the next lesson tested your balance in a way no kid could forget. Number 22, walking the balance beam. Gym class sometimes meant facing the balance beam. And let me tell you, it was not for everyone. A narrow wooden strip, barely wide enough for your foot, dared you to walk across without falling. Kids held their arms out like circus performers, wobbling dramatically while classmates cheered or laughed. Falling onto the padded mats was expected, but staying on? That gave you something to show off. Balancing yourself was scary, but the next memory was even scarier. Number 23, oral book reports. Standing at the front of the class with a library book in your hands was every shy kid's worst moment. You might have practiced at home, but as soon as all those eyes stared back at you, the words got mixed up. Some kids froze, others rushed through, and a lucky few actually enjoyed the spotlight. Teachers would smile and nod, sometimes asking questions that made your brain go completely blank. It was scary, unforgettable, and something almost everyone had to face. But once you finally sat back down, the familiar sounds of the classroom quickly brought you back to normal. But number 24 is one you can almost hear playing in your head right now. Number 24, the pencil sharpener on the wall. Every classroom had one, the heavy metal pencil sharpener, bolted to the wall. The grinding noise echoed through the room as kids cranked away, showering the floor with shavings. A sharp pencil tip felt like a small victory, even if it broke 5 seconds later. Kids often needed to sharpen just to escape their seats for a minute. The smell of fresh shavings is one you never forget. And now the final memory. It was a daily practice that meant more than anyone realized. Number 25, the flag salute. Every morning the class stood, placed hands over hearts, and recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Voices echoed together, some proud, some mumbling, some half asleep. The flag hung at the front of the room, sometimes a little frayed, but always important. It was routine, almost automatic, but it carried weight that stuck with students long after graduation. Even though the Pledge of Allegiance was about coming together, the flag played a very different role at the end of the day, showing that every classroom routine had its own story. Which of these memories hit you hardest? Let us know in the comments. We love reading your stories. If you enjoyed this nostalgic ride, give the video a thumbs up and share it with a friend who grew up in the 70s. And don't forget to subscribe because next time, we'll be exploring even more amazing memories from the 70s.